The rise of towns. Yes, okay. The rise of towns. This is another one where you're going to put some stuff in your notes. I think this is maybe the last thing we talk about. It'll probably take 15 minutes. By the beginning of the Middle Ages, urban life had begun to decline in Europe. The Roman Empire had encouraged the building of towns, but city life declined as the empire itself declined. The Germanic peoples found fewer and smaller towns and established themselves on rural villas, manors, and castles instead. The reduction in the size and number of towns led to a drop in long-distance trade, so they become more isolated. Towns lost their right to self-govern and became the property of their lords. This is the feudal system emerging after the collapse of Rome, yes? We've talked about the feudal system, lords and vassals and all that, right? In the 11th century, however, the population began to increase dramatically along with the increases in production of food. It's estimated that the population of Europe nearly doubled from 1,000 to 1340. Okay, so 1000 AD or CE if you prefer to 1340. Population doubles. Put that in your notes. If I put it on the board, you should probably put it in the notes, right?
Yeah.
If it's that important. What happened? Why was this population increasing so quickly? It coincides with a rise not a rise, an increased length of the growing season in Europe. What would cause the growing season to lengthen in Europe? Doesn't that mean it's warm for longer?
Yeah.
Can you grow crops in the winter in Europe?
Nah.
Not so much. So the climate gets warmer. This is known as the medieval warming period. So if it's warmer, you can grow more crops, right? If you can grow more crops, can you feed more people?
Yes.
So more territory can be put to agricultural use for more time during the year. In other words, agricultural productivity goes up. Agricultural productivity increases during the medieval warming period, so much that the population in a 300-year period doubled. They were growing some crops, weren't they?
Yeah.
Like, seriously. And they're doing so well agriculturally, they're eating well. When you have a well-fed population, don't they tend to be healthy?
Yes.
Yes.
Don't healthy people tend to grow larger families than unhealthy people?
Yes.
Very much so.
So there you go. That's why you have that population doubling.
That's crazy.
So, what else comes with populations growing and you have the agricultural productivity going up? Would you need as much of a percentage of the total population actually out in the fields working? If productivity is doing so much better, it's easier to grow things, would a higher percentage of the population be able to move away from the farm into the cities?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they'd be able to, like, we don't need as many people trying to grow the same amount of food. We're doing so well, we can have less people farming and as a percentage of the population, right, and have enough food. So cities and towns grow. Now there's a problem. We have this huge population boom, people are starting to pack more into the cities and towns. What happens around 1300? We start to see the climate cool back down. Around 1300-ish, right? The climate is cooling. Which means what for agricultural production?
Goes down.
So ag production goes back down. But wait, we've got this population that's double the size that it was the last time we had lower agricultural production. What's going to happen to the people? What?
Die
Die from what?
from starvation.
They're going to start to starve. They're going to become malnourished. When you are malnourished, what happens to your immune system? It's not as strong, right? It's weakened. Absolutely. What?
What is malnourished?
Malnourished means you're not getting enough or the right types of food to be healthy. So because the agricultural production goes down as the climate is cooling back down, you've got a lot of people to feed because the population had grown so fast. You're not able to feed everybody. A lot of people became malnourished. Their immune systems became weak. And what do you notice about this date? It says it doubled between 1000 and 1340. What happened 7 years later? What did you just put in your notes yesterday?
The Black Death.
The plague shows up in Europe
That's crazy.
at exactly the wrong time. Remember, the plague had come to Europe before, and it killed some people. The plague of Justinian is bad, but it wasn't nearly as bad as this one is. Why is this one so much worse? Because they were weakened. They had a huge population. Ag production goes down. They're malnourished, and then this bacterial infection hits them, and their bodies can't deal with it. Plague shows up, and what was it, 1347?
Yes.
1347 through 1351. This is like worst case scenario. Now, as we mentioned, though, it's kind of like a really nasty, horrible way to put things back in balance, though. Were things out of balance?
Yes.
I mean, as long as their agricultural production was still high, they were able to support that big population. But something threw the balance out, right? The
Colder one.
The colder weather, the colder climate threw things out of balance. So the population is going to have to adjust to match. It's one of the things that population scientists worry about. Does this belong to somebody in here?
It's a girl. Her mom brought it.
Oh, okay.
My mom brought it.
Do you have a name?
No.
We
Daddy
forgot the
said that
name.
she was in here.
All right, cool. All right, get out of here.
Okay, bye, friend.
See ya. So, hang on, what did I just say?
Like,
Talking about colder climate.
The balance,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
We're talking about the balance. So, it has to come back into balance, which means, unfortunately, that a lot of people had to die. If it hadn't been the plague, it would have just been a longer, more drawn out period of famine and starvation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless they were able to get the agricultural production back up. Yes?
You know what the population was at before it doubled? You know what it started at?
We can surmise based on the stats we had yesterday, right? It said so in 1340s, before the plague showed up, it said there was 85 million people in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So if it had doubled, that means it had been just 300 years earlier, half that. So 35, 40 million.
That's crazy. That's a lot.
It doubled due to the agricultural production increase, and then got cut down by a third by the plague. You guys see how it was the wild changes in population over a 300-year period due to agricultural production change and plague. they seem like they're not connected, these things, but when you realize that, oh, that date is close to where the plague came, you start putting, you like connect the dots, right? It's a puzzle. History is a puzzle. And the more pieces, if you think about the way those pieces are connected, you start to see the big picture of what life was like and the historical events and their importance during medieval period. And you can connect those dots all the way to today. That's why a lot of people like history.